Okay, I think that I synced him up as best as I could. I kind of eyeballed it on that one, but looking good. Maybe Climatee just ahead by a moment, but I think that's close enough. So I'm gonna gain some clarification on the question that was asked. Alright, and then so I have that posted, and so this is the 150 cc's, no skips. Ooh, Climatee spinning himself out and hitting a tree. Uh-oh. So he's coming in with a little bit of a disadvantage here. The rules are essentially play all 4 cups in a row: mushroom, flower, star, special cup, DansGame. Spinning out, so that'll allow Climatee to get caught up a little bit here as he rides the wall. Dan getting a mushroom, he's going to use it on the time trials cut, and he did what's called a mystery boost. You ride against the wall, do the fire the shroom, ride the wall, and you're charging a mini turbo. And as soon as the mushroom boost is gone, you actually release the mini turbo and hit the wall at the same time as that mushroom is done, and you get a little bit of an extra boost. And you're welcome. So the player's going to play all stages. There are no skips. There's only 2 spots where they're going to be, quote, skipping a part of a lap, and that's the Koopa Beach, which is the cave jump, and then also the hairpin cut on Yoshi Valley. So Dan had a bit of an advantage. He's ahead about 3.5 seconds. And I did get confirmation they would have to beat them twice, so that is correct. Alright, so we move on to Moo Farm, and this is a very tough track, only in that the moles that pop out are random each time that they are crossing over. So if they happen to have a little bit bad angle going over, and they end up going over a molehill, usually more of the time you'll hit one, but sometimes you'll get lucky. And the uneven ground makes it really tough to charge up a mini turbo, and of course those NPCs will put bananas out, as we saw Dan hit one, but he still maintained a good line going over those final turns. So still a few seconds ahead here. No major mistakes really. Climatee had just spun himself out, just happened to hit that tree. Otherwise, they would be mostly even. Climatee pulling the mushroom. He's going to. Dan hitting a mole, and Climatee is going to use the mushroom cleanly. He's going to gain a pretty good amount of time. It's going to catch him up. So he just has a couple more seconds to gain. Alright, next up, Koopa Beach. This stage actually features not only that cave jump, but also an 8th place item manipulation. And what happens is when they drive around the track all the way, they're actually going to hit the last items, and then right before crossing the finish line, they're going to go to the right. And there is a polygon that the programming, if you touch that polygon, the game thinks that you're actually at the beginning of the lap. In which case it will register you as 8th place, even though that's not technically correct. Climatee missing the cave jump. He's going to be forced to go around. Huge mistake, and definitely a game changer. Dan getting the 8th place item manipulation, but pulling a lightning bolt. Climatee can make up some good time if he gets some lucky items. Gets a blue shell, very unfortunate. So Dan is decisively in the lead at this point and pulls a mushroom, but a buddy hits a banana and he's not able to go up into the cave. Wow, pro item spot for CPU. So now both players have missed a cave jump. Climatee making it in is going to make up a lot of that time. So he's more or less in about the same spot he was at the beginning here. What a turn of events. Dan getting the 8th place item manip, but gets the blue shell. He's going to bonk it on the wall and get rid of it so he doesn't hit himself. Climatee did not get it, so he actually did pull a 1st place item for a banana. Alright. And the final, there's no bananas in Dan's way. He makes it in. Climatee, the same. Very nice. So I think Dan gained a little bit of time. I think Climatee is now a few seconds behind, but more or less that was probably the most ideal thing you could have wanted. And they actually do have a similar time. So they actually netted the same at the end. Yeah, exactly. Right when you thought it was over, some bananas right in the way. Wow. Okay, so we're pulling up into Calamari Desert, aka Karakara Desert in the Japanese version. So this is one of the first tracks where you really see the game lag quite a bit on the Nintendo 64 console. And the ideal thing is the players can pull a banana and they can hold it behind themselves, which zooms out the camera. And zooming out the camera will reduce the amount of lag that the game has for some reason. So zooming out, you know, the input that you can have using the up C, and then additionally holding the banana will further reduce the lag. So what typically you see happen is they'll try and cycle for some items. Dan getting a shell. Climatee is just going to hold it and try to get all of that lag reduction. If they can pull a boo, then they can drive through the train at this very spot, or they can drive under the train, which is very risky. And Dan tries it, hits the train. Climatee goes cleanly through and makes up the time, and he is now in the lead. Very, very nice. Both players went for it. Dan just happened to hit it. Wow. So that is a very advanced technique. You're trying to lead the gap between the train cars, and it's really tough. But both of these players, being as skillful as they are, would go for it each time, and it actually makes the difference. As we see now, Climatee is now in the lead. So Dan, holding the item, is going to try and cycle for a good item, but gets a banana, so he's going to continue to hold that. Got some unlucky pulls. Climatee beats the train. Dan goes around behind it, and had some nice back and forth, which is very exciting. Because typically you don't see this many things happen in the first half, but that was great. So both players are going to reset as soon as they cross the finish line, and then they're going to select the next cup, which is the flower cup. So you can save or lose a lot of time just by having fast menuing, picking the wrong character, picking the wrong weight class. Are some big ways to lose time. Both players get back in the action very quickly. So Climatee, good, bonks on the fence. Still is ahead by about half a second here. So Toad's Turnpike, aka Kinopio Highway, is a track that has cars, buses, trucks on a set cycle. So you always know where they're going to be unless you make some horrible mistake. Dan pulling a boo's out, which will allow him a little bit of safety in case he might cross the path of a truck. He'll be able to drive right through. Easy to use it and go to the right and discharge mini turbos. It saves a very, very small amount of time, but gives you a little bit of extra safety. As a lot of times as you're coming around these turns, you'll be trying to go right around the trucks and buses, etc. So you can really have some close calls. We have seen people hit them several times on matches, even at high levels. Dan going on the inside of the bus, so he's taking very tight corners around. And we see Peach as the rival character for both of them, which is interesting. They both fired a banana, which was interesting, as it was almost like simultaneous the same. One thing to note about the rival characters is that they are assigned to you as you are picking your character in the character select screen. So you can count on some characters to be always catching up to you, and those are your two rival characters. One will be right behind you on some maps, and the other one will be kind of hang out, but generally closer than the rest of the people, NPCs that is. And both players, looks like Dan has pulled ahead in the lead, just with some better maneuvering. The boo going on the inside in some cases. Looks like they are actually pretty synced up. Climatee does pull the mushroom, which, if I didn't state, and I know we have stated many, many times in the past, is a 10% chance in first place to get. So other than that, very technical track. You just want to be weaving in and out of traffic, getting mini turbos off. Wow, Dan going ping pong off of the walls from one side to the other, and I believe Climatee is just about like a tenth of a second ahead. During the in-between races, they're holding start and mashing A, which allows you to get through the menus as quickly as you possibly can. So yeah, very, very close race at the moment. So they're going to start off with an A-B spin, which allows them to turn the cart a little bit more than just holding to the right, and cross over some of that deep snow. So this is one track where we're pulling a mushroom and going over the deep snow, where kind of where these snowmen are. Dan actually pulling it. He's gonna show us right now. Going over, has a great mushroom. Doesn't go out. There's a spot where you can go out of bounds, and then of course you can always hit the snowman after, which not only wastes the amount of time that you would have saved with the snowman, but makes it a lot worse. So Dan pulls the mushroom. Climatee pulls the boo. Boo's out. And he'll have a little bit of safety, but really the mushroom here would be a big pull if he pulls one. But Dan now has turned the tables. He is in the slight lead at the moment. Wow, all of those fake item boxes on Climatee's side, and he uses the boo to safely traverse that. There was a lot going on in those snowmen land minefield. So Dan at the very, very small advantage going in. Correct, virtually in sync, which is amazing. You know, being now 6 courses in, plus some menuing. So both players pulling a green at the same spot. Dan does elect to go around versus going over the snow, like you saw Climatee do on the left. It's determined that it more or less is about the same. We're not sure how much of a difference, if it's really even worth it. So both players coming across at actually the same moment. Practically. Great race so far. And we're going to be moving on to Chaco Mountain. Another very technical track. Lots of ways to lose time. This one is a big one for a lot of people who spin themselves out and fall off at the last turn, which there in 150 cc's there is no safety rail, and you can just fall down and waste about half a lap. Other than that, just trying to take the corners as sharp as you can without hitting them. Hitting them is a huge time loss because it can slow you down. It'll grind you to a halt. You can see that there are some falling rocks. Typically not a problem, but we have seen some people get smashed by them in the past here. So Climatee just getting a little bit more of a lead in that first lap. Not by much, just 0.06 of a second. Both players, which is so interesting because they're pulling about the same items at the same spots. Looks like Dan has gained the lead back. Ooh, Climatee getting really close to the edge. Doesn't fall in. Kind of takes a wide angle at the end, but Dan pulling the mushroom is able to fire it as soon as he crosses the finish line, which is one of the spots in time trials to use it. So he's going to pull ahead ever so slightly. Other than that, ooh, but he did touch the wall there, which slows him down. So that does mitigate that lead there. Solid maneuver. Wow, Dan does the mini turbo. It swings him way out. That was actually super dangerous. Climatee pulling the mushroom, but he's going to tumble on the wall and lose about a second there. He tried to go ham and do the mushroom over the hills, but the angle was too far to the right, and he did tumble. Unfortunate. Otherwise, it would have been pretty much tied. So Dan's going to enter Mario Raceway first. And this is a fantastic track because it's over very quickly, and this is actually another spot where the players can buffer for that 8th place item manipulation. So they're gonna drive a specific a specific spot, a specific way around the track, and then they're gonna grab items and then touch the inner side of the green pipe, and the game's gonna think that they're in 8th place for a moment. And Dan did not get anything. Climatee does pull a lightning, so it isn't gonna be a problem. Dan getting the mushroom isn't the worst because he can forego driving the slow way around and use the mushroom for the normal mushroom cut that you typically see for this track. So he will save a good amount of time. Climatee really does have to, get a good item, but now he's gone off the track, so he may not have a chance at getting this. I'm not sure if that was a spot, but he still does get it, but he gets unlucky. He gets the blue shell, so he's going to hit that on the wall. So that is a bummer. So Dan is actually going to pull ahead quite a bit. Climatee pulling another boo, nice. And Dan gets another mushroom, very lucky. Wow, he must have the MR, the MR luck today, getting all these mushrooms. So he's going to be crossing over at the 16-12, resetting, and we're going to be seeing him soon in Star Cup. Climatee rolling across at 16-20, so he is now 8 seconds behind. But he is still not down and out. As really, this is the half of the game where things oftentimes go awry. Not necessarily in this first track. It's not typical for things to go wrong in Wario Stadium, but there are plenty of ways to lose time because it is such a long track. There's a lot of hills, a lot of turns where you can save or lose time. You can tumble, taking too sharp of an angle. But generally, these players are playing at a very top level. I don't imagine there's going to be more than a couple seconds swing between each one. But yes, it is a very technical track. Where Climatee is, he's going to do the mini turbo. We'll see if he goes for the second one. He actually does. It is very risky because if you don't get in that slide, the left-facing one, you can risk tumbling. It will save you time, but because you're traveling so quickly, you don't really have much time to get into good position for it. So a mushroom pull would be huge for either player, as before that large area there's 2 hills that you can just mushroom over, and it saves a lot of time, as long as you don't go a little bit too wide with it. So both players rolling over, good first lap. Nothing really too much to be said about this track because basically all tracks going forward. Dan hitting a banana, popping through. He did not hit that fake item box. Climatee pulling another boo. I think he's on like 4 boos at this point. I might even be missing one. Possibly even 5. But Dan still decided to lead in the lead. But like I was about to say, all the tracks going forward are really, really tracks that have a lot of obstacles, ways for you to lose a lot of time, especially in Sherbet Land, which is going to be coming up next with the penguins. What? Yeah, right. You definitely did not see me. Although I wanted to be. Alright, Climatee does pull the mushroom, so it's not going to give him a large advantage. Dan did have the 111, but, unless Dan pulls a mushroom himself, Climatee just gained a second on him. So really not going to be, like I said, much of a swing here. Clean driving, and one thing to really note and why these don't really have a lot that happens in them, 2 reasons. When you get so far ahead of the CPUs, you don't really start to see much of the items anymore because they're not even dropping them. There are some times when you're in a run, you won't see anything, you won't see any, and I won't say the word, but there is that one thing that will slow you down by a long shot. But bananas, fake item boxes, there gets to be a point where you really don't see many of them at all. There's typical spots where they're going to be. But for the most part, you know, when you're that far ahead, you stop seeing those types of things in your way, unless there's ones that you had laid. So Dan did get the 109. Climatee did get the 110. So really, he only got just a little bit more than a second peeled back. So Dan's gonna enter in Sherbet Land now. So this is one track that can be a nightmare, depending. So the penguins are on a set cycle, so you know they'll be about the same spot with a clean run. If they hit a banana or hit a fake item box or even fall in the water, which is really bad, it will set them on a different cycle, and the penguins are going to be in a spot that they don't expect. So really the cave penguins are the ones that you need to look out for, because there's one when you're going on the inside of that pillar where Climatee is about to cut. If that penguin is perfectly in between the wall and the pillar, it is really, really tough to get around. So falling in the water will not only cause the Lakitu to pick you up, but you'll also be frozen in a block of ice. So it's more than just falling into water on any other track. So far, so good. Climatee going to the right of the bananas. Nothing too far in his way. Oh, but I feel like I'm getting deja vu because he hits the lap 2 penguin and gets slowed down. He had a much better recovery than the time previous, but that penguin can be a doozy. That is one that is really tough to avoid if you don't have a ghost, or if you have just bad timing. So with better timing, it just wouldn't be there. So bummer. So Dan pulls ahead a little bit more now, and he did get a mushroom, which using in the cave saves a lot of time. So he had a clean run, 31, 31, and 30. Very good times. Climatee's going to be trailing. He's going to have a lot of time to make up, but he is still not out of the race yet. There's still plenty of shenanigan spots. So yeah, he just had that 35. That was really the outlier. Next up is Royal Raceway, aka Peach Circuit, in the Japanese version. So this is a spot which actually also features an 8th place item manipulation. But it's only possible if they get a boo. If they get a boo, they can go to the right of the finish line, much like Koopa Beach, and try to pull an 8th place item. One thing to note about the boo is that there's also a 20% chance at getting nothing, so it's a little bit worse than the previous 8th place items that we have seen. But they may not get one, and we may not see one today. So really, they're just hoping for mushrooms, and of course, not hitting anything. Oh, Dan actually pulls one, boos out. So he actually has not had much boo luck, but he has pulled one now. He's notorious to get it at the best time. Buddy hits it too early and pulls a banana. Nice work, Dan. And that will not. Buddy pulls another one. What? Wow. Okay, so he has another chance. So interesting, and luck is always on his side, it seems, at this point. Double boo. Nice. Yeah, boo's out. So nothing too crazy. I don't think I've seen them hit any items so far, despite the CPUs laying to those bananas down in pretty evil spots. They'll cut over the grass. One thing to note is that if you go over the hill or go over the ramp, there's a chance that you might bounce at the end of it, which will lose a little bit of time. So he hits it. I believe he was a little bit late on that one and pulls 5 bananas. So he actually failed it twice in a row. Nice. And Climatee does pull a mushroom, so he'll be able to get a little bit more time. But Dan's still with the decided lead. So very unfortunate. In the spot where you can do that at, it's like a big triangle polygon. It's a lot easier to hit it if you're like all the way up against the wall. Just to kind of save speed, they'll try and get it without going all the way to the wall. But it does give you a smaller gap at which you can pull it. So he was trying to not lose a lot of time and potentially not even get a good item. Dan admitting in chat he needs to practice that. in between in between in between the courses here. All right, so this is the spot now where the game can get really evil. Koopa Castle, aka Bowser's Castle, on the NTSC American version. The thwomps, there are some that follow you. There's some that swap positions back and forth. Wow, Dan pulling a boo again in the best possible spot. So the thwomps can get in your way. They're on a cycle, so you kind of know a pattern of maneuvering more or less. You know, except when you get behind, much like Sherbet Land with the penguins. You know, with very clean driving, they'll be in the same spot. You know what to expect. Too many things can happen. They will slow you down, like bananas, bad maneuvering, things like that. This is also another track that has a little bit of lag, so holding an item can be beneficial, but zooming it out a little bit more makes it a little bit tougher to see where you're maneuvering to. It can be counterproductive. Dan pulling the boo, he's able to drive right through the boos. Wow, and there was a banana around the corner. He was able to drive right through that as well. Very, very lucky. That actually could have been something that would even this up. The CPUs are known to put that banana right around the corner. You turn the corner, you can't even see it coming, and then you fall right in the lava. Seen it many times. So Dan with a huge lead at this point. Climatee does have the mushroom to try and get a little bit of time, but it's not going to save much. But overall, both players are having a very good Bowser's Castle. Nothing crazy. Climatee clips the bush. Not much of a mistake by any means. Ooh, nice. Gets around the thwomps. Those ones are nasty because they smash you, and then you do the flattened animation, which is really slow. So it's more than just getting back up to speed. You're actually like floating back down to the ground, which makes you feel really bad. So Dan resetting. We're gonna go to the last cup. Oh, Climatee's spinning himself out a little bit. So Donkey Jungle Park, aka Donkey Kong's Jungle Parkway. This is the track which I believe has the most lag undisputedly. You can see on Dan's side how much slower the Lakitu counts down. So the timing for getting the start boost is different. So it can make it tough. I have definitely missed it in the past because it's just weird timing. Dan's game freezing? That was weird. It looked like he almost like went through that wall. So that was the live splice. No worries, don't even worry about it. So this is a track we're holding a banana behind you for the entire for the entirety of the course. Will actually save you. I think we calculate up to 4, possibly even 5 seconds, depending. So it actually could be more beneficial than farming for a mushroom, which Climatee is going to use to get up the cave. You can see it does climb very quickly, but you see how much more it lags immediately. So it looks like Dan will hold this for the rest of the time. It doesn't look like he's going to cycle items because triple greens, you know, he's not guaranteed to get that lag reduction. It is very huge for this track. So I believe now with the players with the items that they have, they'll likely just hold them for the rest of the time. When they cross over the water, they want to go as far left as they can, you know, without going too far, otherwise they'll land in the water. That is one spot where a lot of time is saved, and also the cave climb. Without a mushroom, you essentially charge a mini turbo and you hop and tap A at the same time. Now, going up the hill, it does slow you down. And whenever you're slowed down, you want to be triple tapping A, so like after you hit an item or if you're at a standstill, triple tapping A gets you back up to speed within a second and a half, versus if you're at a complete stop and you press and hold A, you don't reach max speed until about 5 or 6 seconds. So getting back up to speed is very important for any time you hit an item or you make a mistake. So because that hill is slowing them down, they can triple tap A and R at the same time. And when they reach the top, they can accelerate back up to top speed very, like almost immediately. Oh no, Climatee cuts a little bit too far and he tumbles. There actually is a spot where you can't climb anymore and it'll tumble you down. So that was a big mistake. So next up, Yoshi Valley. This is another spot that does have a little bit of lagginess, and there's a few ways around the course. If they're going to be safe, they're going to be going to the right, because going to the left features some spinies. You can save 1 or 2 seconds, but only if you don't hit a spiny. If you hit a spiny and you spin out, you'll lose the time that you were trying to save going to the left. So at this point, they're really just hoping for some lag reduction items, some mushrooms. A boo would be most beneficial because then they can use that left path with no issues. They can just drive right through those spinies. Dan actually going to go to the left, so we'll see him go without a boo. Very nice. He does go right through those spinies and makes it. Wow, pro move. Nice work. Good maneuvering too. So second lap, if you did have a specific pace, you know kind of where to go, because the spinies are on a set cycle as well. So Climatee at about a half. Ooh, he hits the banana, makes it really tough to make it over. He does position himself and make it over after that. That can make it really tough to get over, so nice recovery. Dan is really far ahead at this point, probably about 3/4 of this lap. So barring any kind of craziness on Banshee Boardwalk, this could be already decided. Still too tough to tell because we've yet to see certain things happen in the game so far. No huge mistakes that they didn't also have on the other side. So missing the cave, some random spinouts. Dan having some really good luck in this one. So he's going to be going up to Banshee Boardwalk, aka Hayudoro Lake, I believe they call it in the Japanese version. So this one features very narrow corridors, and there could be some spots where the CPUs will leave bananas that will send you off. Right where he is right now, when that zigzag is particularly tough, if there are some items in the way, it will make it tough to recover or get around. You know, you basically have to take those corners and then make a snap decision on trying to avoid them. So Dan having a very good first lap. Looks like he's just going to save items. I don't think he's even thinking about items at this point. He's just concentrating on just the maneuvering. It looks like due to the choppiness, the streams have actually gone out of sync. So I'm actually going to pause them just for a moment here. Let me get them synced back up. Okay, that should be a little bit better. So there is less of a gap visually, but more or less he is very much ahead at this point. So at this point there really isn't much that can happen, especially if you hit yourself with a green and fall off into the water. It can make it really tough to win the match. Really tough luck. It's unfortunate with the green shells. You know, you want to try to fire them backwards because then you can't hit yourself like that. Really tough. It can happen. I've done it myself. And to answer what part of the tournament this is the end of the losers bracket. So this is losers round 5. The winner will actually be put back into the winners bracket to finish out the tournament. So Dan pulling up into Rainbow Road, the final and longest track of Mario Kart 64 and the Mario Kart franchise as a whole. So this track does take a very long time to get through. So they will slow down at the beginning just so that they don't float down. If you jump at the beginning there, even though it's very fun to do, you actually do lose a little bit of time because floating down is slower than just driving on it. In the winner's bracket is Matthias, MR. If I am reading the bracket correctly, he won earlier against Smurfy, and he will be going against the winner of the losers bracket, which is the winner of this race. And he will have the losers bracket winner will have to beat Matthias twice in order to win the tournament. Dan pulling around. He's going to be at quite an advantage at this point. Climatee does have a booth for some safety, so he'll be able to go through a chain chomp or an item if it happens to be in its way. Got it. Okay, I do retract my previous statement. The winner of this will play Smurfy, and the winner of that will have to beat Matthias twice. My apologies. And the pace for Dan currently, he is on... He's 22 seconds behind his PB going into Rainbow Road, so he is still sub 39 pace technically. Yeah, it would take a very large mistake from Dan at this point, so it is more or less decided. It's tough to really say. You know, nothing is ever certain, but this is looking like a sure bet for Dan. So this track being very long, you know, feathering out the mini turbo saves you time. Going against the wall without hitting it as tightly as you can, as we see Climatee climbing the spiral. The chain chomps, which get in your way, are on a cycle, so it's really tough to follow where they're going to be. You kind of have to memorize some of that, because some of them will travel all the way across to one wall, and some will stop in the midway and turn around and come back. So, you know, you more or less know just from experience where they're going to be, but if you have a tough time, you hit some items, you're on a different pace, that's where they can be trouble, because you're not sure, should I cut inside or not? Alright, so Dan in the final lap. Climatee going to be coming up. Does pull the mushroom. Yes, he's going to be just barely making sub 39, it looks like. Climatee, even despite that, he's on about, even with hitting that banana, he's at about a 30, like probably 39, 35, which is still an amazing pace. He's actually still in line to beat my PB, which is amazing. These are just good. Even though there was some mistakes, they both have fantastic times. They're going to, even at the end of this race, have a fantastic time. So you can't really sell either one of them short, because Climatee was going up against the world record holder. You know, if things were different, you know, maybe if one of them had missed the cave and not another, you know, this would have been over maybe a lot sooner. So Dan rolling through, just barely sub 39 with the 38.59. Climatee's going to be coming around the final big turn of the race. Very nicely done. Still gets sub 39, which even all things considered, that time specifically would be a fourth place time. Excuse me, a fifth place time, because the fourth place time is a 38.49. So still fantastic, even with some mistakes. Really solid. And Climatee rolling through with the 39.28. That's still an amazing time. That is still decidedly. I think that even is Still, yeah, that is actually still a 5th place time, which Climatee does hold with his 39:12. So still, you know, barring those huge mistakes, they were both on PB pace going pretty late in the show here. So the winner now, Dan, is going to be going up against Smurfy back in the winner's bracket. Luke, aka Climatee, is knocked out. GG's to both the players. And the next match has yet to be decided when it's going to be, so I'll try to catch us very soon. But we're trying to get the winners finals done by, like I said at the beginning, by the 24th. So once again, thank you so much for SpeedGaming for hosting our tournament. It's been a lot of fun. And if you guys are interested in joining our site, you can go to MarioKart64.com, and that's our time trial site. And we also have the rankings on speedrun.com. So once again, my name's Haddock. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and we're going to see you again very soon. Thank you, and I hope you guys have a good one. I'm always like about to cut the stream, and then I start listening to the end credits, and it's such a jam. And after the ultimate final, don't forget about the final.